Good day, my name is Robert Farrell. I've been teaching Adobe software since the late 80s, the very first version of Adobe Illustrator. In fact, I used to go out to Adobe's headquarters back in 91, 92 and teach them, their staff, the best way to use Illustrator and Photoshop. So here's the objective. Adobe Illustrator can be a very confusing, overwhelming program. In this short little video, I will get you up to speed on how it thinks, what it expects from you, and how to work the right way. Basically, this is on-the-job training. So if I was to hire you as an employee, these are the exact same techniques I would teach you to benefit to go out there and make some money with your skills. Now, I've saved my file. Doesn't matter if I save for print or web, this happens to be wide to fit the screen of the video that you're watching. So the first thing I want to do is, this is how I get started with any document. Command R, Control R, Windows. I'm going to bring up my rulers and I'm just going to put a guide on my page for a place to draw from. Now, by default, your guides may or may not be locked. So make sure if you're opening your Illustrator file for the first time that your guides are locked. So here's how it works. My objective is to get you to think the way the software thinks. So with that in mind, if I want to lock my guides, okay, let's understand how Illustrator thinks. Most Windows-based machines, whether it's Macintosh or Windows that uses a drop-down menu, is broken down into logical themes and exercise. So that example, I don't want to see the guides, I don't want to touch the guides, so seeing is viewing. So based on these choices, see, guides, guides, lock, lock, guides. Now if you want to learn the shortcut for that, you can do that. Make a change, save a change, Command S. Okay. So I put a guide in there because I don't want to select the guide and delete the guide, but I put the guide in there so I can draw from the program. Now, again, on the job training here, I'm going to share with you exactly the same way I work. So the first thing I do after I bring out my guides, of course, saving the file is the first thing I do. Second thing I do is bring out my guides, and if your guides are not locked, make sure they're locked into place. So Illustrator Palette is broken down into basic tools. I have selection tools, creation tools, and transformation tools. Now there's a lot of other tools, but if you just learn those three principles, you'll be way on your way to understanding and mastering Illustrator. So there's selection tools, there's creation tools, and there's transformation tools. So selection tools, creation tools, and transformation tools. Now, what am I creating and selecting? Well, Illustrator is an object-based program, exact vocabulary, object-based program as an example. Photoshop is an image-based program. There's an image menu. Images are pixels, objects are vectors, similar to Flash or other programs that use vectors. So anything about the object is under the object menu based on these choices. Now a lot of the choices are grayed out because I haven't created anything. More importantly, I haven't selected anything. So again, I want you to think the way the software thinks. So here's the first thing I do after I make my guides. I'm going to hit the A tool, A for direct selection tool. It's simply the letter A. Now, once that tool is selected, I will never physically select that tool again. So here's a good example of this. I want to select this tool right here because I want to create a rectangle. That's the letter M. So watch this. I'm going to create a simple rectangle. Okay, so I select the letter M to select the rectangle, and I'm simply going to draw a rectangle. Now, if you want to move the rectangle, this has probably happened to you before. You can't select it with the rectangle creation tool. If you try, it's going to give you this dialog box. Okay, so what I want to be able to do, I don't want the dialog box to pop up. I want to temporarily select the selection tool. Here's production technique number one. I hold down the Command key, Macintosh, Control key for Windows. It will turn any tool. The same techniques works in inDesign, works in Photoshop, works in After Effects. Used to work in Flash. Flash is no longer working. So I simply hold down the Command key. Notice as I hold down the Command key, it will select the last one of these tools I selected, which in this particular case is the direct selection tool. Okay, so I just want to understand that very basic, simple process. I'm going to delete this. So again, I'm inside my M for rectangle. Why is M for rectangle, not R? Because R is for rotation. We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, here's my fill, here's my stroke, here's my fill, here's my stroke. I could exchange the fill for the stroke of the object. So let's select the object again, create an object. Okay, so right now it's stroked with black based on these choices. I could change my stroke to 4 points. Now, since I'm working with a print document, it's working in points. If I was working in a web document, it'd be working in pixels. I have extensive videos that explains all that, but my objective here is to get you up and running in a simplistic way. All right, so here's my stroke, here's my fill. Now here's a simple solution. That very simple mistake to make. I decided to color this with red. I come over into my palette, and based on these choices, I'm going to pick red. But it didn't change the fill to red, it changed the stroke to red. Why? Because the stroke is selected. If I want to exchange that, I can simply hit the X key for Windows or Mac, simply hit the X key. So now I have the fill selected, so now I can fill it with red, hit the X key again, and stroke it with black. So fill with red, stroke with black. Now if I want to swap that, which is a really powerful technique, if X exchanges, Shift X will actually swap black for red, or any color that you pick. So if you wanted to stroke this with green, hit the X key and fill this with, let's fill it with pink. I can hit Shift X and do that. Pretty cool. Now, here's a big advantage of working with the direct selection tool. The direct selection tool that I can get now by hitting the Command key, Control key for Windows, because that's the first tool I initialized. So the advantage of that, it gives you the best of both worlds. I can select part of the path and move the path, Command Z undoes that, or I can select the whole object by clicking into its fill. Once again, I'm going to repeat that. I hold down the Command key, keep the Command key held down, select the object, do whatever you want with the object. In order to affect the object, you have to select the object. Okay, again, anything about the object is under the object menu. These are all grayed out because I've broken the rules. I haven't selected something. In order to affect something, you need to select something. You select by holding down the Command key. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so it's really that simple as far as getting up and running. Now, if I want to select this, an object is made up of points. Points basically create a path. The path creates the object. There are two types of objects in Adobe Illustrator. There's an open path object, there's a closed path object. By default, a rectangle is a closed path object. Now, very important step to understand. Right now, nothing's selected, so again, I can't do much because I have nothing selected. But if I have something selected, then I can do anything about the object is under the object menu. It's that type of thinking. Get that into your thinking. Anything about the object that you select is under the object menu. Again, my objective here is not to do a dog and pony show. My objective here is get you to think the way the software thinks. I use the same approach for WordPress, for Illustrator, for Photoshop, for any course that I teach. Okay, so I'm deselect, reselect, deselect, reselect. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to basically open the path. Now, very important step. If I select this anchor point, it's going to delete the anchor point to its next anchor point, the anchor point to the next anchor point. So by doing so, by hitting the delete key, it's going to create an open path. But notice what happened here. Because I selected the anchor point, it selects the anchor point to the next anchor point, the anchor point to the next anchor point. But let's say I simply wanted to select this path right here and delete the path. Then I don't select the anchor points. Hold down the Command key, I select the path itself. And I hit the delete key. So now I have an open path. How do I know it's an open path? Because it's only three-side green with the stroke. Now, if this did not have a stroke, it'd be very difficult. So if I was at the X for exchange, and at the / key, which is the question mark key, I would have no stroke. Right now, it'd be difficult to see, in fact, if that was an open or closed path without seeing that blue highlight line. I'm going to do this for a second, Command Z. Command Z does. So that's how I can take an open path and make it into a closed path, or an open path, make it into a closed path, make it into an open path. Again, understand the difference between selecting the anchor point and deleting, or selecting the path and deleting. So I'm going to select the anchor point and delete. So now this is a rectangle-esque shape, but it's still an open path. If I want to close the path, in order to affect the path, I need to select the path. So I select this anchor point, holding down the Command key. With the Command key or Control key still held down, I hold down the Shift key, and I select this anchor point. Now I want to join the object, more specifically join the path. Here's a question. How do I join the path? Well, there's nothing up here that says path, but I know that this is an object. Based on these choices, how do I join the path? Object, path, path, join, which happens to be Command J, Macintosh Control J for Windows. So now the path is joined. So I'm going to undo that and simply hit Command J. Okay. Now, I can also do that by simply selecting the object. In the newer versions of Illustrator for the past 5 years, you can select the whole entire object in Command J, and it will automatically know to close that particular path. Now, here's the rule of joining a path. You can only join an anchor point to an anchor point. Okay, one anchor point to another anchor point. So as an example, I'm going to take this object. I'm going to show you a really powerful production technique. I'm going to hold down the Command key, and as I drag this, I'm going to hold down the Option key, Control, Alt key for Windows, and hold down the Shift key. So right now I have 3 modifier keys. I have the Control for Macintosh, Command for Macintosh, Control for Windows, Option Shift, Alt Shift. Make sure you let go of your mouse hand first, and that will make a clone copy. So now I have this clone copy, so let's see what I can do with this. I'm going to move this up to here. So I can actually select all, and Command J, I'm just going to join the entire path. Command A selects all, Command A selects all, and join. So it's going to join an open path to an open path. But notice it only did one of those. I said only do one at a time. So if I Command J, it's still an open path. But Command J again, then it's going to close the other path. So let's understand how I did that. Command A, select all. Anything about the selection is on the select menu. Based on these choices, Command A will select all. So Command A selects all, Command J joins the path, Command J joins the second path. So etc., etc., etc. But I can only join an open path to another open path, or of course I can join this to itself. I'm going to hit the Edit menu and Command Z, go back a few steps. So Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Command Shift Z or Control Shift Z will go forward. Command Z, Control Z on Windows will go backwards. Okay, so that's a basic understanding of how I can work with Illustrator and working with shapes. Now, in the next video, I'm going to share with you transformation techniques of how to work smart and how to create instant artwork using transformation techniques, following up on the same techniques we just did. So stay tuned.